Have you ever wanted something badly and then felt almost nothing after getting it? You wait for the message, you refresh the screen, you track the package, you open the app again, you chase the next video, the next snack, the next notification, the next goal. And for a moment it feels like something important is about to happen. But then the reward arrives, and the feeling disappears faster than you expected. That strange gap between wanting and satisfaction is where dopamine becomes interesting. Because dopamine is not simply the chemical of pleasure, it is the chemical of maybe. Maybe the next message will be exciting. Maybe the next video will be better. Maybe the next notification will matter. Maybe the next achievement will finally feel like enough. And that is why dopamine is so powerful. Not because it always gives pleasure, but because it makes the brain chase the possibility of pleasure. In this video, we are going to understand why dopamine is not just about feeling good, why wanting can become stronger than liking, and why the chase often feels more powerful than the reward itself. Once you understand this, a lot of everyday behavior starts making sense. Scrolling, craving, procrastinating, shopping, checking, refreshing, waiting, chasing, not because you are broken, but because your brain is constantly predicting what might reward you next. Dopamine is often called the pleasure chemical. That phrase is easy to remember, but it is not fully accurate. Dopamine is not simply the feeling of pleasure. A better way to understand it is this. Dopamine helps the brain notice what is worth pursuing. It is involved in motivation, anticipation, learning, attention, and reward prediction. In simple words, dopamine is part of the brain's system for asking, is this worth chasing? This is why dopamine can rise before the reward arrives, before the message, before the food, before the win, before the result, before the exciting moment. The brain is already preparing. It is predicting. It is leaning forward. It is saying, something important may be coming. This is why anticipation can sometimes feel stronger than the actual reward. You may feel more excited before eating the dessert than after eating it. You may feel more excited while waiting for a reply than after reading it. You may feel more excited adding something to your online cart than after receiving it. You may feel more excited before reaching a goal than after achieving it. Because dopamine is deeply connected to pursuit, it does not simply say, this is enjoyable. It says, go get it. And that difference matters. Because a life driven only by dopamine is often not a life of satisfaction. It is a life of chasing. One of the most important ideas in dopamine research is that wanting and liking are not the same thing. Kent Berridge, a neuroscientist, is well known for his work on the difference between wanting and liking. In everyday language, this means you can strongly want something without deeply enjoying it. That explains a lot of modern behavior. You may want to check social media, but not really enjoy the next 20 minutes of scrolling. You may want junk food, but feel heavy or regretful afterward. You may want to buy something online, but feel only a short burst of excitement when it arrives. You may want to watch one more video, even though you are tired and not really enjoying it anymore. That is the strange split. The wanting system can keep pulling you forward even when the liking is weak. This is why people often say, I don't even know why I keep doing this. That sentence is important because it shows that the person is not always chasing real pleasure. Sometimes they are chasing the promise of pleasure. Sometimes they are chasing relief. Sometimes they are chasing novelty. Sometimes they are chasing escape. Sometimes they are chasing the feeling that something better might be just one click away. And dopamine is very good at making maybe feel urgent. Maybe the next scroll, maybe the next message, maybe the next purchase, maybe the next achievement, maybe the next version of life. The brain can become more interested in the chase than the actual reward. That is why wanting can be dangerous when it is not examined. Because wanting does not always ask, will this make me fulfilled? It often asks, could this give me something? and could is enough to keep the loop alive. Uncertainty can make the chase stronger. The brain is highly sensitive to unpredictable rewards. If you knew every social media post would be boring, you would stop checking. If you knew every notification was useless, you would ignore it. If you knew every shopping offer was fake, you would lose interest. But you do not know. That uncertainty is the hook. Maybe this time it will be interesting. Maybe this time there will be a good message. Maybe this time the next video will be perfect. Maybe this time you will discover something important. This is why variable rewards are so powerful. The reward does not come every time. It comes sometimes. And sometimes can be more powerful than always. Because the brain keeps checking. Not because every check is rewarding, but because the next one might be. This is the logic behind slot machines. It is also the logic behind endless scrolling. You pull down to refresh. You scroll to the next post. You check the next message. You wait for the next like. You click the next recommendation. Each action carries uncertainty, and uncertainty keeps attention alive. This does not mean every app or platform is evil, but many modern digital systems are built around the same psychological truth. The brain has difficulty ignoring unpredictable rewards. If something gives you a small surprise once in a while, your brain may keep returning to it again and again. That is why the problem is not always pleasure. Sometimes the problem is possibility, and possibility is powerful. Notice that sometimes the chase feels better than the result. Waiting for the message feels exciting. Tracking the package feels exciting. Chasing the goal feels exciting. But after the reward arrives, the feeling often fades quickly. Then the brain asks, what next? This is not because dopamine is bad. Dopamine helps us move, learn, work, improve, and pursue goals. The problem begins when the chase becomes endless, when you cannot enjoy the reward because your mind has already moved to the next thing, when you cannot rest because the next target is calling, when you cannot focus because the next notification may be interesting. So what can you do? Start by noticing the chase. Before you open the app, ask, what am I hoping to find? Before you snack, ask, what feeling am I trying to change? Before you procrastinate, ask, what discomfort am I escaping? That small pause matters, because dopamine works best when the chase is automatic. When you bring awareness to the chase, you create space. Then reduce unnecessary cues. Turn off non-essential notifications. Move addictive apps away from your home screen. Check messages at fixed times. Do not let every cue control your attention. And give your brain better cues. Keep your book visible. Keep your workout clothes ready. Keep your work open before you start. The brain follows cues, so design the cues carefully. Dopamine is not your enemy. It is a signal. It tells you what your brain has learned to pursue. The real question is, are you choosing the chase, or is the chase choosing you? What is something you keep chasing, even though the reward is never as satisfying as you expected? Write it in the comments, not to judge yourself, but to understand the pattern. Because once you understand the chase, you can begin to choose what is actually worth pursuing.